Rodeena, our pinch hitter, our savior, our social media manager. What do you think, just given your experience, how do you take into account reputational risk with social media today?
Okay, well, first, thank you, Brandi, for the introduction. It's so great to be here, and it's wonderful to see all of the panelists and to all of the students out there. But yes, social media is extremely important, and that cancel culture, as you mentioned, Brandi, is real. It's very real. We see it happen in our feeds like every day somebody is getting canceled. So one of the things that I always like to say is that we just need to be very mindful and careful of the content that we produce and that we put out there. And social media has definitely, and digital has taken on a world of its own. And we have to look at ourselves as like these content creators, as producers, and really brand managers of ourselves. And so the information and the content that we put out there, it is representative of who we are. And one of the things, this is something that I've always heard others say, what do you want people to say about you when you leave a room? Like if you're in a room, you walk out of the room, what is it that you want people to say about you, or what are people saying about you? And that's essentially when we are posting on social media, we are presenting ourselves to not only to our friends, but also to the world. And as much as I also teach in a college classroom, so as much as we may try to lock down our social media, our Instagram, our Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, etc., there are ways where people are actually able to see what it is that we're posting. And so what it is that you're putting out there is also what you are putting out there about yourself. And so we want to make sure that we try to control that narrative and be very mindful of what that narrative is, and just understand what it is that we want our message, our brand to be to the world. And as college students, it's not, now is the prime time to do that, to begin thinking about who you are, how you want people to view you online, because so much of what we do is online. How do you want people to view you, and how can you control that narrative? So one of the things to avoid like that cancel culture, to avoid and to manage and maintain your reputation, is to think twice about things that we post. We might post something thinking that someone is not going to see it, or maybe you only have 10, 15, 25 followers, and I'm sure many of you have hundreds, right? But you may only have a few that you think that having that number is not going to impact someone responding to you or retweeting it. One of your 25 followers or one of your 100 followers, they may have thousands of followers. And so if they see something that you post and it's something that's irresponsible, perhaps, right? Hopefully not. And then they retweet it to their thousands of followers. Those are things that we have to take into account. And so there's this one example, and then I'll kind of decrease a little bit. But there's this one example from 2015. Some of you
we lose her?
I was just about to say, is it just me? She's like 2015, some of you, and then I saw Anna. Anybody? Rodeena?
Perhaps there was a Wi-Fi challenge.
Could have been, she was on a roll.
I'm curious to know what happened in 2015.
Right? Okay, so she got disconnected. So I will just wait for because I want to know what happened in 2015. I was gonna say, as Rodeena was wrapping up, and hopefully she can get connected back in and join. I was gonna say to the students, I'm not on TikTok, and but I look at TikToks on Instagram, and I'm always just puzzled by all of the dance challenges, and then I try to learn the dance challenges because I think I'm pretty hip and cool, even though I'm a geriatric millennial. I hate that term, but it's what I am. But I try to learn the dances. There was one dance you all may or may not remember, the panelists may remember on TikTok, where it was the silhouette dance. It's like it turned into a red light district, like you were in like your bathrobe, and then the red light came on as like a silhouette of you. Now, Tiffany Haddish did one, and I was like, wow, that's like amazing. And I love Tiffany Haddish. And I will say, and I am not, embarrassed to admit this, I thought about, for just a second, I was like, I want to do the red light. And then I remembered who I was and where I worked and what I do. And I was like, so that might not be on brand for me, and for maybe that's not. And I thought it'd be fun because I was just like, I love the music. And I was like, yes, girl, because I could be out here and I'm the Beyonce, the business. I really had to think about it. Now, the point that Rodeena was making and saying, and just kind of what she was saying about, you have to think about, what does that say about you? Some people can say, well, Brandy's like, you know, she has a good time. But the other people will be like, wait, I'm supposed to be taking advice from her, and she in the silhouette in the bathroom. And it could be, again, with perception being reality. So that's just me personally. If Rodeena gets, I don't think she's back on yet, but if she comes back on, we can pick up. But I just want to move into.
I'm sorry about that. I
Oh,
don't know.
there you are.
We were just, talking about social media and technology, how wonderful it is, right? It just literally boosted me out. But Brandi, what you were saying makes perfect sense. And I chime in with that whole silhouette challenge thing. That was very interesting.
It really was. But no, Rodeena, like we had a cliffhanger. You were like in 2015, and then we left you. So girl, you have to.
So
in like you got to finish that.
Okay, so in 2015, there was a 30-year-old, young adult woman by the name of, and I won't give her name. If you know the story, you know who she is. But she was 30 years old, corporate communications executive, and she was on a flight to South Africa. You heard that story? You know where I'm going? So she was on a flight to South Africa, and I believe she was one. She had maybe 100 and something followers, not a lot, as the journalist who was sharing the stories was sharing. And so as she got on the flight, and that flight was several hours, she was just kind of sending these little cryptic tweets. And this one tweet in particular was very insulting. And I'll just kind of share what that tweet was. And she says, going to Africa, hope I don't get AIDS, just kidding, I'm white. That was it, turned off her phone, went to sleep. So social media did what it does. And those who were watching, and even though it was just a couple of her 100 followers, one of those followers actually had, I believe, and don't quote me exactly, but I think over 10,000 followers. And it might've been a lot more than that. He retweeted, with a comment to her tweet. And that tweet literally took on a life of its own. So to make a long story short, by the time she landed, not only did she lose her job, not only was she receiving just really horrific, sexist, just horrific tweets, there was also someone in South Africa who was there to capture her when she got off of the airplane and tweeted to everyone else, oh, she just landed. So the point, and it was a very unfortunate situation. She lost her job. She lost a lot of credibility, obviously, and she was a communications executive. So even for those of us who are communications professionals, we especially have to be so careful with what we put out there and the reputation that we create for ourselves. And so really the moral of the story is that we, let's not minimize or just kind of trivialize what impact that our tweet can make. Someone is watching, someone is reading, and college educators, college professors are looking at them, recruiters are looking at what we post, although we try to make it private. There are ways that they can get on there. So, my main takeaway is let's be careful and let's create our own narrative. So even though you might have a Facebook, a Twitter, a social account that is just for your friends and it's private, I encourage you, create a digital platform that is a professional platform, one where you're creating a professional narrative as a college student, as a young professional, that if someone does Google you and they find you, they'll see, just good content that you've created, reputable posts, etc. You can control that narrative that is out there for you, and just be mindful and don't trivialize, don't put any kind of cryptic post because you think it's funny and it may not matter because you're a college student. Once we put something on the internet, and even if we delete it, it lives on forever and it can take a life of its own.
Absolutely. Very, very well said. Very well said, Rodeena.